Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rock Shop with Ralph, your source for all things entertainment. Tonight on the show, we have an author, Tim Durling, from his YouTube channel, Tim's Vinyl Confessions. He has a new book out called Unspooled, an adventure in 8-track.
8-tracks. Yep.
8-tracks. We're not only going to talk about 8-tracks because some of my fans are going to say, what? 8-tracks? What the hell's going on here? But there is a collector's market with the 8-tracks. But Tim is also an avid record collector, and we'll be talking about that. And we'll be talking about his book that he just released. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good, Ralph. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Awesome. No problem. And as always, you got to ask me how I'm doing.
How you doing, Ralph?
Kicking life in the nuts, Tim. That's what I'm doing. Kicking life in the nuts. But yeah, so let's get started. Your book is called Unspooled, an adventure in 8-tracks.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke earlier, and I have to confess, I haven't seen an 8-track tape since my sister's Donna Summer tape in like 1979, maybe, early 80s. But tell me, how did you get into 8-track collecting, and why are you so rabid about it?
Oh, that's a good. That second one's a really good question, Ralph. I'm not so sure I figured that one out, but so I was born in '74. So when I started collecting, when I really started getting into music when I was about 12 or 13, it was cassettes, and you could see behind me.
Yeah, I have those same racks.
Yeah, those Napa Valley ones. They hold 100 tapes. I wish I had 2 or 3 more of those. They're expensive now to buy. Right. And I got CDs and I got records. If I like a band, I try to find their albums in whatever formats exist. The one format I don't have any of is reel to reel. Those are still $250 on eBay for, like, I've seen Aerosmith and Kiss and Alice Cooper ones. It'd be cool to have a little box with just a single reel in it. Really weird. But 8-tracks, yeah, and a lot of people do think that 8-tracks died out in the late 70s, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to write this book, because I used to think that too. I thought they kind of disappeared from retail shelves about 1981, 1982.
88, right?
Through Columbia House. Yeah, if you were in Columbia House, RCA Music Service. I want to show you a page from the book just to give folks out there an idea of the albums, the later 80s albums that do exist on 8-track. I don't know if you can make these out.
Michael Jackson's Bad.
Yep.
I can't read them, but I can see the pictures. Oh, Europe, Final Countdown.
Yep. Journey's Greatest Hits.
Oh, Journey's Greatest Hits.
True Blue. The Cocktail soundtrack.
Right.
Top Gun soundtrack, Genesis Invisible Touch. Yeah, these things exist. And there is a collector's market for them. Some people want to collect all of them that were made. Some, like me, I just want to collect the ones that were made by the bands that I love. I've got some, and I've got a ways to go.
Now my fans are going to be saying, Ralph, please ask this question. So I'm going to ask you, how do you listen to an 8-track tape if you have a newer car now? If you want to listen to it on 8-track, you have an 8-track player that you actually take the actual 8-track and put it in and listen to it? Is it a sound thing that you want to listen to? Or is it just the actual cassette that you want to see? Is it just something that you want to collect, like stamps or coins?
It's for pure collecting, Ralph. I don't have a player anymore.
Right.
Some people do. Some people collect these things. They get the players and they oil them and they take them apart and they make sure everything's clean. They'll go in there with baby oil and a Q-tip or whatever. They'll take the tapes apart.
Right.
Pull them. I don't have that kind of time. I don't know about you. But I do like collecting them. There's something very, very cool to me about seeing an album that I've, listened to for years, and the artwork, you'd see it and you'd recognize it anywhere. And there it is in that 8-track form, especially those later 80s ones. Like, I see you got a big Kiss photo there in the background. What if I told you
I got plenty of Kiss?
One of my biggest regrets in life so far, about 4 years ago, you know how you go on eBay and I don't know about you, I hate bidding on stuff.
Yeah, I never win.
No, I never win. I always get outbid at like 10 seconds left. There was a buy it now. In other words, I could have had it for Animalize on
great album.
And it was like $250.
Holy shit.
And I said, oh man, I said, I just can't justify it. Now I wish I'd done it because money comes and goes, but I'd have that Animalize 8-track in my collection.
So
right
wait,
now,
hold on a second. You're saying that these 8-track tapes go for $250 to buy?
Depending on who they are. I mean, they're not all created equal. There's nobody crazier than a Kiss collector, right?
Well, I got to break the ice now. I want to show you. The name of your show is Tim's Vinyl Confessions.
Yes.
You can see everyone who knows me knows I'm crazy about Kiss. This is my one vinyl album that I have left.
Nice. That's a good one to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have all the Kiss albums on 8-track from the first album through Music from the Elder. So
to 81. You're up to 81.
Creatures, Lick It Up, and Animalize. Those are the last known officially made Kiss 8-tracks.
Right. So then Asylum was next. They didn't have it on 8-track.
Yeah, Asylum is one of the ones. I have a chapter in the book about, ones that could exist on 8-track. Maybe we just haven't seen it.
So all right, we're getting somewhere. This is purely a collector's.
Absolutely.
It's just collectors. It's like me with baseball cards when I was a kid. We would flip them or we would trade them. You'll have is there a market or is there clubs where you'll say, all right, I got Music from the Elder on 8-track. I'm looking for Animalize, and you guys trade or barter, or how does it work?
Some people do. I don't. Like I bought Music from the Elder because I wanted Music from the Elder. I want all the Kiss. Like for a band I like, I want all of them. I want all the ones that exist on 8-track, and usually there's just a few at the end, right? When you dip into the 80s, there's just one or two at the end that I'm missing. But yeah, people do trade them, or people will have spares, right? And they'll say, look, I've got 2 copies of Van Halen 1984. I'll trade you one of those for, your Unmasked tape or whatever, Yeah, that sort of thing goes on. There are Facebook groups and
right.
And really the Facebook groups, if they specialize in 8-tracks, one of the main ones that I mentioned in the book is called 8-track fixation. It's good to deal with people that know what they're talking about because, you go on eBay and sometimes, you get the feeling that people don't know what to stick on things for prices, right? And I don't know I wouldn't know what to charge for them if I wanted to sell them either. So it's kind of good to talk to people that, in any seller's market, you want to talk to people that know a little bit about it. Now, having said on the other side of that, I've always thought it would be awesome to happen upon, a flea market or a garage sale where someone's selling a pile of 8-tracks that belong to some family member and they're selling them for $1 each. And it turns out they're all these mid to late 80s Columbia House 8-tracks. They have no idea the value of what they've got, because a lot of people think, well, there'd be no value in an 8-track, right? They were everywhere.
Right.
It's all down to who it is, and whether Kiss collectors, we're crazy, that. And sometimes we just want whatever has Kiss on it. If it happens to be an 8-track, it happens to be an 8-track. It might be an 8-track, might be a motorcycle, right?
Yeah, Columbia House, 32 CDs for a penny.
Exactly.
I want one of my fans to tell me who paid that penny.
That's right.
Please call me and let me know. I want to see. I still owe them 5 cents because I screwed them 5 times over. I have 150 CDs here. Columbia House.
I know people that used to do that. I was in Columbia House in the 90s.
Different names.
Yeah, I didn't do it, but you used to be able to get things sent what was called general delivery. And I know people they'd get that introductory offer, get their dozen CDs or so, and ABC you'd never hear from them again. The artist couldn't have made much money.
How?
So that's why, if you notice as it went along, there are certain artists that you didn't see their albums
on there.
Columbia House. Metallica comes to mind.
Right.
In the 80s, like I've got a cassette of And Justice for All that was a Columbia House issue, but that's the last one. From Black Album on, nope. And I think that's why, because the royalties would be next to nothing. The
owner of Columbia House has to be one of the stupid businessmen ever. How the hell did that guy ever get paid? And how did they stay in business for so long? In the back of the TV Guide, in back of the Metal Edge magazine, I would rip it out all the time. Then they got smart. They would say, "Oh, you're a member." I would mail it in. They would say, "Oh, you're a member already." you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, well, it was a negative billing option, right? Because you'd get the selection of the month, and if you didn't want it and you forgot to mail that stupid card back
Right,
in,
right, right.
they'd send you whatever CD was the selection of the month. Chances are it'd be nothing you'd ever want, and and
Exactly.
they charge you for it.
Yeah. All right. So Tim, take me through the book. Let's see. From the start to the middle to the end. What possessed you to make this book, and how's it going with it? I know you've been selling a lot, and you're telling me you only had a couple copies left.
So, the idea for the book started kind of way back in the mid 90s when I discovered a website called 8 Track Heaven. And the site still exists, but it's in archive form. It's not active anymore. But that's when I first realized these Columbia House 8 tracks existed into the 80s. And that blew my mind. I saw a picture of David Lee Roth's Eat 'em and Smile on 8
Great
track.
album.
It was like, poof,
86.
that is so weird. So I always kind of thought it would be cool if there would be like a book that listed all of them. And that's really all I originally wanted to do, was list them by the year, starting in 1981. And the reason I started in 1981 is because that's the first year that there seemed to be 8 tracks that were released through the record clubs that don't seem to be a retail counterpart. And you could tell them, when you got a cassette from Columbia House in the 80s, you could tell it way different than
Oh
what it was
yeah.
like if you bought it off a store shelf, right?
Yeah. They had the brown casing.
Yeah.
A lot of them where the casings were brown.
They were ugly.
Yeah, they were ugly. Right.
Yeah, so you could, and 8 track, same thing. You could easily tell them apart. So I thought, there really should be a book that chronicles this. And I talked to Martin Popoff, prolific rock writer
From Brave Words.
That's right. That's right. And Martin did an episode of my show. I was asking him his memories of 8 tracks, and I was telling him about these Columbia House ones. And he said, someone should do a book on this. And I thought, well, if Martin Popoff thinks that there's a book idea here, there must be a book idea here. So
Bingo.
I approached my good friend Matthew Phillips, who designed the book and did a great job on it. His company's called Go North Design. And Martin also suggested, there should be some stories in here about collecting too, not just about 8 tracks. And that's what it became. So I go from 1981 through 1988, and each year has 4 like sub chapters in them. And I have a lot of them. I've got some guest contributors. Our mutual friend Mike Ladano contributed a chapter because
LaBrain.
the LaBrain train. He told me a story about when he was a kid. He thought that the inside of an 8 track was chocolate.
Oh gosh.
So I said, you got to share that story. That story's in there. And, anyone who grew up in the 80s will find a lot to recognize here. And anyone who's ever searched for stuff like, musical stuff, especially before the internet where you couldn't just go on eBay or Discogs and get whatever you wanted. You never knew where you were going to find stuff. There's a lot of that thrill of adventure in here, and just how good it felt when you finally tracked something down that, was like, wow, now I've got it. And I've got pictures of myself from all of those years. I've got some old toys of mine, and it's it's not autobiographical, but there is a personal touch to it. And at the end of each year, there is a list of all of the known 8 tracks to be released by the record clubs. It ends in 1988. I've got an epilogue throughout. You've seen I showed you the picture of some of those 80s 8 tracks. The design is outstanding. It's really, really colorful. The color pops out. It's a 192-page book, and it's a coffee table book. It's not something that you necessarily have to pick up and read from cover to cover, but you can. You can just kind of flip to any chapter, start reading. Oh yeah, I didn't know that. For music collectors and fans, it's let's put it this way: if I could have found a book out there that was like this, I would have just bought it. Because
Right.
I wouldn't have put all this work into it. I'd never had any designs on being an author. It still seems funny to me to be referred to that way, but I guess maybe I am now. We started with a Kickstarter campaign. That did really, really well, but we still had at least 24 people that were still asking, hey, you got any more of those? So we ran off a second batch of them in February. And as of us recording this right now, I've got 9 soft covers left to sell.
Okay, great. Now, there was 2 questions I wanted to ask you. The first one was, is this pigeonholed into one genre? Is it like hard rock, heavy metal music? Or is it all kinds of music?
Well, okay, so I share a lot of the pictures in this book are from my personal collection. Now, those ones that I showed you from the 80s are not. But a lot of these pictures came from my personal collection. My main interest is rock, hard rock from the 70s and 80s, what's generally referred to as classic rock. But as far as the year-end lists, they cover all genres. You know, there's pop, there's country, there's easy listening, there's soundtracks. So, you know, if you grew up watching, you know, MTV, and if you're up here in Canada, Much Music, you'll recognize a lot of the stuff that's in here.
So let's take, for instance, we're going to go 1983. Dio, Holy Diver. That came out in 83.
No Dio band 8-tracks that I know of. Okay.
Okay.
The only Dio 8-tracks I've ever seen are the Rainbow and the Sabbath one.
Okay.
So Live Evil, you know,
that's
Sabbath.
Sabbath.
Yeah, that's still Sabbath. That came out in 82. I don't know if there's a retail version of that, but there is an RCO, Record Club only, version of it. But to my knowledge, and I say that carefully because it could be that there were just so few made, they haven't surfaced yet.
Right.
But
and when
there are some bands that you would never ever think would ever have had 8-tracks that do, and then there's some you'd think, well, if they have an 8-track, then this band might, and they don't. For example, Rat have a couple of 8-tracks, believe it or not.
Really? Wow.
You can get the EP and Invasion of Your Privacy on 8-track. Well, you say you can get them if you can find them. On the other hand, Twisted Sister don't seem to. They were on the same label, out around the same time. Why? We don't know.
And you know whose legs those were on that EP, right? That Red EP?
Oh, yeah, the late Tawny Katane. Yeah.
That's right. All right. So I'm testing you. I got to see if you know your stuff.
I love that EP. I love that Rat.
Right?
Yeah, Sweet Cheater and all that stuff.
Of course. And Robin Crosby, rest in peace, man. He was the heart and soul of Rat, you know.
One of the rarest CDs in my collection is my copy of that first EP, and it's never been reissued for some reason.
Right. I actually interviewed Stephen Pearcy on this show. And I asked him, you know, what are the chances are of the Rat reforming? He says pretty much nothing. It actually made Blabbermouth. I asked him, and I also asked him, you think Rat should be in the Hall of Fame? And he answered me, and Blabbermouth wound up picking it up. But not to get sidetracked. The point was, what was my point? I'm rattling off something here for a second. The point was where he was saying, as far as the original band getting back together, there's no chance of that getting back together. And you mentioned how good that first EP was.
Oh, yeah.
But okay, so now you're saying those cassettes, those 8-tracks are you're saying record RCO, Record Club only.
Record Club only. In other words, no retail version of them, because by the time you hit 1982 is the last real main year that they were in stores, and after that, there's maybe about 6 known ones from 1983.
Really?
After that, most people, including myself, I mean, when I was a kid, I remember going into these stores, and all of a sudden, everybody that used to have 8-tracks just started buying cassettes.
Right. Now, let me actually. How about this question? You're an 8-track collector, and you want to buy an 8-track. How do you know that 8-track is all inside there? How do you know the tape is all inside there? How do you know?
Right. Well, if you are somewhere where you can pick it up, you can tell whether there's tape in it or not, and whether it's just an empty shell.
If you don't have a player, you can't play it.
That's right. Yeah, there's a certain amount of trust involved, right? But there is a certain amount of when you get one that looks too perfect. Chances are you've got a reproduction there. Chances are someone's taken a Barry Manilow 8-track and put some Goo Gone on it.
Even now.
And now it's got Holy Diver on it. And they can make it look pretty darn authentic, right? Like what one would have looked like had it come out. So, but one thing that's pretty hard to duplicate is the bubbling that would happen on the label sometimes, or the just the fading of the color. So, yeah, you're taking a chance because it's like you don't know what's on there.
That's funny. You think you're getting Dio Holy Diver side one. You think you listen to Stand Up and Shout, and all of a sudden you hear her name was Lola. She was a showgirl.
Yeah,
but yeah. So do you have
another thing? Is if Holy Diver did exist on 8-track, I'm guessing if you were to put it in and play it, program 1, 2, 3, and 4. It wouldn't be in the order that you're expecting to hear those songs in.
Really? What would it be in?
Could be anything, because as opposed to records and tapes, they had 4 programs, and they tried to make each of those programs as equal in length as possible because you could not rewind 8 tracks. You could only fast forward them.
Aha.
And
so you wouldn't listen to Stand Up and Shout first. It might be something else.
Yeah. I mean, it might be Stand Up and Shout first, but the next song might be
Invisible.
Yeah, or you might get to say Rainbow in the Dark, and it gets halfway through and it fades out, and then click into the next program, and then it fades back in.
See, that would piss me off.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing about 8-tracks and why they became popular in the first place, I think, is because they were kind of the first portable music medium. You could chuck an 8-track player in your car or your truck, and you could listen to whatever album you wanted to listen to when you wanted to listen to it. So the portability of it won out. It certainly wasn't for the artwork, because if you're playing an 8-track, half of it's shoved into the machine, so you can't even look at it.
Right.
And yeah, there would be those albums that they would, they'd totally mix up the song lists, track listings on them. I just did an interview. My last episode was with Greg Renoff, who wrote Van Halen Rising.
Van Halen.
He and I went through the first 6 Van Halen albums on 8-track, and they're all out of order. Like on the first album, for instance, it goes from Eruption to, I think, Feel Your Love Tonight.
Wow.
So to hear Eruption go into anything except You Really Got Me seems weird. But like he said, if you grew up listening to that 8-track and then you got another format later, it might sound strange to you.
You see, that would bother me because, I was always the geek that sat in his room, that played the CD or played the vinyl, looked at the back of the cover, looked at the liner notes, and it took you on a journey. Destroyer, side 1, Detroit Rock City. If King of the Nighttime World doesn't come in, I'm pissed.
Yeah. No, it's a weird format, Ralph. It's a weird format to collect. It's a weird one to get kind of not obsessed over, but whatever you want to call it. The idea of having these albums, I call them out of time, because these albums from 1985, 86, 87, they shouldn't exist on 8-track. You shouldn't have been able to go into your Columbia House catalog for the month and say, well, what do I want? Do I want this on 8-track, cassette, vinyl, or CD? You had 4 choices.
Right.
CDs and 8-track should not have existed at the same time, but they did for this brief window of time, and I'm fascinated by this for reasons I can't really put into words.
Yeah, they might have been testing the waters to see if it took off.
Yeah. And it's no wonder they stopped. Eventually they just stopped, because how much money is it going to cost to have 4 different manufacturing?
Right. That was a lot. So we're talking with Tim Durling, the author of Unspooled. Do you have a copy of the book, Tim, to show the fans?
I do. Yep.
There's a copy of his book. It's a guide to it's an adventure to 8-track tapes and record collecting. And where can they buy the book, Tim?
Well, like I said, as of right now, I've got 9 copies left. The cost is $65 in Canadian funds. That's about $53 in US. PayPal. And if you want to get in touch with me, send me an email, Tim's Vinyl Confessions, all one word, @gmail.com. And if we've got any left, love to set you up with a copy.
Awesome. Now let's talk about your show, Tim's Vinyl Confessions. That's your YouTube channel. I've been watching it. I'm a fan. I like the stuff that you're doing on there, the guests that you have. Tell me about it. Tell the fans about it. What is your show about, Tim's Vinyl Confessions? What is that about?
Well, I started it back in 2014, and it was in the beginning originally about just my vinyl collection. I called it Tim's Vinyl Confessions because Vinyl Confessions is the name of an album by Kansas, one of my favorite bands. Just seemed to have a ring to it. So it started out, eventually I ran out of vinyl to talk about. Then I started talking about cassettes, and then my CDs and my 8-tracks. And then I would talk about a new album when it would come out. Sometimes I'll do it on one band. Like I'll go, okay, here's all my Queen records. Here's all my Kiss cassettes. Here's, I've had a lot of steady co-hosts over the years. I've been lucky enough to have some really cool guests over the years. And one of my favorite things to do, and one of the things, the 2 most popular types of episodes that I've done have been the ranking the albums by the year. People seem to like those ones. You just commented a couple on our best of 1990.
Yes.
Or road trips. Anytime we go somewhere, whether it's record store day or whether there's a record expo, here's where we went. Here's what we found. people seem to like those ones too.
All right, when you have a guest and you say we're going to take the best albums of 1987 or 1988, let's go with 88. Is there they could pick anything that they want?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's generally it's all about the same style of music, 70s, 80s, rock, hard rock, metal. But yeah, we've done them different ways. Like we've each, say if there's four of us, we each list our top 10 and then we just go, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 9. Or we'll submit, our top 20. Four people submit a top 20 and then one person will rank them according to how we've ranked them and make it into a master top 30. And then the person that ranked that album the highest will talk about that album.
I got you.
Sort of thing.
I think LeBrain was doing one. He asked me to be on it, and I think he was doing 1986 with me, but we haven't gotten around to it. I think it was supposed to be the end of this month. I have to check back with him. I know he was doing something like that. But I want to thank Tim Durling for coming on the show. The name of his book is called Unspooled, An Adventure in 8-track tapes.
8 tracks.
8 tracks. I wasn't sure. 8 tracks. Okay. And the name of his show is Tim's Vinyl Confessions. You can find that on YouTube. That's his YouTube channel. You can also find him on Facebook. If you want to buy the book, you can get in touch with him through Facebook and through his YouTube channel, obviously. And what was your email address one more time, Tim?
Just Tim's Vinyl Confessions at gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. It's been a pleasure. And you're welcome back anytime. You're part of the Rock Shop family now.
Thank you very much, Ralph. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.